People who refuse to let police search your vehicle during a normal run-of-the-mill traffic stop. What happened next? I'm an attorney and I politely declined a vehicle search in Maryland. Backup arrived. I was never told why I was pulled over, nor did I ask. After declining the search, they bought the canine, which inevitably hit after I saw the officer give the dog the signal by tapping on the door 3 times. Of course, they tore my car apart and found absolutely nothing, as I don't do drugs, drink, or take any medications beyond the occasional multivitamin. I'm in law enforcement and know that many police officers train in a backdoor signal to drug canines that manufacture a probable cause to search. They might tap a couple times or say a code word and the dog will hit whenever they do. Nothing ever came of the stop after 6 cruisers, 8 officers, and a canine, all because I refused to search and politely refused to answer any questions. After the stop, I was issued a warning for a 37 and a 35. I also made sure to alert the officer handling the canine that the dog's false positive needs to be added to the dog's report, as it's discoverable evidence the next time he secures an arrest. He did not like that one. Someone in the comments asked, how would someone outside of a lawyer be able to verify that police adds the false positive to the dog's report for the future? I would assume, as a regular resident, the cops would just tell me to go F myself. And then somebody answers and says, the public is entitled to view that sort of thing as a matter of public record. States generally have their own FOIA analog, and depending on which state you're in, you could just fill out a form and describe the type of record you wish to see. But your instinct is correct that they might just tell you to go screw yourself. Lawyers get it usually as a matter of course in criminal proceedings, and it's typically only used to bolster or attack credibility as a testifying officer. Testifying police officers are different for obvious reasons, but canines are treated as shakily reliable evidence of probable cause, but they're notoriously unreliable for anything else. Now back to the stories. Back in 2001, I was 17 years old and picked up my buddy from work at 11 p.m. on a Friday, who was also 17 years old. I was waiting in front of the grocery store where he worked. He ran out of the store just being an idiot and got in my truck. There was a police car behind me. The police car followed me out of the parking lot and immediately pulled me over. He asked if he could search my truck. My truck was a tiny 2-seater. If we'd stole anything, there was no place to hide it. I said, for what reason? He just asked to search again, and I said no. He could see that my buddy was still wearing his work clothes. The cop came back and gave me a ticket for having a clear license plate cover. They were legal at the time, but said it was cloudy and obstructing my plate, obviously looking for something to punish me for. I pled not guilty to the ticket and requested a trial. Went to the initial hearing, told Judge the story and showed Judge the cover, that it was clear, and just asked me to leave it uninstalled and threw out the ticket. The one time I've declined it went like this. The cop's like, why does your vehicle smell like marijuana? I wasn't aware it did. May I search your vehicle? No. Okay, have a nice day. This was a one-off. Before that, I was dumb and let them search my car. And that was the last time I've been pulled over, so I'll see what happens next time. And then someone in the comments says, my friend agreed to have his car searched once while I was with him. We had just been waiting to pick up a girl who was taking forever to get ready for an expensive neighborhood, but he had a crappy college kid used car. He had nothing to hide and they said okay. The cops tore everything apart in his car, broke panels open, and even ripped open fabric to look inside. He just sat on the curb kinda stunned. He had a hacky sack. They tore it open and poured the beads across his floor. They had a jacket in the car. They tore open the pockets to check in the lining and so on. Books and papers were dumped. Glove compartment dumped. It was like volunteering to get bullied. I would never ever consent to getting my stuff trashed when you can just say no. I refused to give consent to having my car searched. I was then asked to get out of my car and take a field sobriety test. I declined and insisted I be given a blood test instead. I was taken to the ER while my car was impounded. My blood alcohol level was determined to be 0 because I had not been drinking. I was still expected to pay my get main vehicle out of impound where it had been searched for safety reasons. Nothing illegal was found, of course. Not only did I refuse to pay, but the damage done to the car in their search was extensive. They didn't search the car in the impound lot, they just vandalized it extensively, including ripping up the carpet, shredding the car seats, vinyl and stuffing, smashing windows, and ripping off door panels and poking holes in the gas tank. I sued in court over this whole thing, and since the cop who initially pulled me over kept lying to the judge about his reasons and getting caught in those lies, since he thought he had turned off the dash cam in his car, he assumed he couldn't be heard or seen, when he was the other cops he called to the scene conspired to penalize me for refusing the search. I won. I won so much I was able to get an even nicer car on the taxpayer's dime. Nothing, of course, happened to the cop who fabricated the whole situation, of course. Car smelled like weed because my dumbass friend bought his packed pipe and stuffed it in the glove box. Calmly refused to search. Cop said that was fine, but he was going to call the dogs to come have a sniff. Made us sit and sweat for about 20 minutes and walked up and said, "I was lucky," and he had been called away somewhere else and to not drive stoned. In a lot of places, they can't make you wait for a dog any longer than the stop would be with no dog whatsoever. Otherwise, you're being illegally detained. And then the commenter said, "Yep, learn that later." That event was actually a catalyst for me learning a lot about the law and the rights of the police. Now back to the stories. I just told him no, I'm not consenting to a search. The cop brought in a canine to sniff the outside of the vehicle. No idea why, because I was only pulled over for an expired inspection sticker. He seemed a bit irritated when nothing was found and wrote me a ticket for the sticker. He could have written the ticket at the beginning and saved us both an entire hour. Hey, if you're enjoying the stories I have for you so far, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hit the notification bell. I try to upload whenever I can. Now then, let's continue on. I've said no twice. The first time, the officer kept asking questions and stalling. Then a canine unit showed up and walked around the car. Then he let me go without searching. The second time, the officer just said okay and let me go without any follow-up. A canine officer walks his dog around my car after I said I did not have permission to search after a broken taillight stop. The dog, quote-unquote, hits. I ask him how he knows. "He's specially trained." Searches my car and finds nothing. But someone definitely smoked weed in this car. They didn't, by the way. Favorite part of that stop is my car was messy as heck, so we had to sift through everything just to find nothing. Someone in the comments says, I had a cop pull my wife and I over coming home from Las Vegas. The reason he gave was because I switched lanes next to me as a cop was going to pull that dude over. They thought I was a tail car that was going to distract cops by doing illegal things, so the drug runner can keep going. It sounded like a bunch of bull, but knowing I had nothing to hide, I made them waste their time. The best part was when the cop opened the laundry bag, stuck his head in and took a big whiff, promptly closed the bag and dropped it on the ground. That had a week's worth of our laundry from the desert in it. Made the whole stop worth it. These dogs are trained to false hit on command. I watched a documentary about an ex-DEA officer gone dealer. It was quite the interesting watch. They searched the car for late Jurassic fossils of trees but didn't find any and let us go. What? Why would they search for fossils? I'm sorry, I'm cutting this video off here for a second. Why would the police want to search your car for goddamn fossil? What? I know the canine officers need some bones, but what the heck? Anyway, back to the stories. In In 2013, my wife pulled over to the side of the road so we could switch drivers. Two cops rolled up behind us. After starting to ask me questions, one went to the other side of the van and just opened the rear door. No probable cause, no consent, or even bothering to ask for it. When I noticed, I verbally objected. I got hit with 2 false charges. I did my homework and represented myself. At the pre-trial hearing, the prosecutor tried to add more charges when I refused to share discovery with him, and they called in the chief of police. It got pretty tense, and then I got a lecture from the prosecutor that spiraled into the bazaar. I got everything on video, both the stop and the kangaroo court nonsense. Oh, wow. All hell broke loose after the news sites started reporting on it. They fired their city attorney for this, and I like to think I had a part in their city council cleaning out their police department. My favorite accolade was from a Myrtle Beach attorney's blog entry with the title, "Don't represent yourself in court unless you're this guy." Okay, so for context, from Montana, driving through Minnesota with my wife's Bug-Eye WRX. Police. Mirror thing is illegal. I'm gonna need to search your car since I can't see into it. Sir, if you take a closer look, you'll see that it's not mirrored. It starts dark at the bottom and turns blue from the middle to the top. You should absolutely be able to see in. The police checks, then walks around and comes back. Looks like you have an illegally modified exhaust. Sir, that's a stock exhaust on a WRX and it's completely legal in Montana. Why are you in Minnesota? I'm visiting family. You're free to go. You don't need my license and registration? Just go. They made me wait while more and more. They told me they needed a search. I told them I needed a warrant. They told me a drug dog is in the area. I told them, okay. They told me they smelled weed. I told him he's full of it. They told me they smelled alcohol. I told him he's still full of it. After 20 minutes, they let me go. Multiple cops stopped by, but none would do anything. I sat there in my car with my hands always on the wheel. At a DUI checkpoint, an officer asked to search my car. I made it perfectly clear that I do not consent to searches. So the officer claimed to smell weed coming from my car, and that magically gave him probable cause to search. I haven't smoked weed in over 10 years, and my car has never had weed inside, smoke or otherwise. It seems cops are using the "I smell weed" to circumvent search and seizure laws. Cops not respecting the law they're supposed to uphold? Oh, wow! I would have never guessed. Pulled over for not turning my lights on in a parking lot. Realized they were off and turned them on before getting to the road. The cop asked if I'd been drinking, to which I replied no. He asked if I had any open containers, to which I said no. And I stated I didn't consent to a search, which he asked if I mind if he checked. He then informed me that turning your lights on late was a sign of being drunk, so he really needed to check. I said that I'd already responded that I hadn't, and I still wasn't consenting to a search. He then went straight pissy mode, claiming that he was just going to give me a warning until I started getting all unfriendly with him. I told him that I agreed that I turned my lights on fairly late, but he was effectively calling me a liar to my face, so unless he had reasonable suspicion and I was being detained, I'd be happy to take my ticket and move on. He cut me off just before the end of it and said I was free to go. It's some sort of game to them, but if you're saying enough of the right words, they have to decide if they have anything better to do that night or not. Luckily for me, it seemed there were other things for him to do. I got searched anyway. FYI, when this happens, just state your refusal to give consent and don't answer any questions without a lawyer present. They can lie and manipulate you into giving consent, sure. They'll probably search your car anyway, but the time to fight that is in court. Officer, I do not consent to a search of my person or vehicle. Am I being detained? The last bit is kind of a meme, but it's an important question to ask. If you can, record the interaction. I have a dash cam that's meant for Uber drivers, but after my experience with the cops, I have it angled so it can record me and my interactions at a police stop. I got pulled over for speeding near the end of a long road trip. The cop wanted to search my car. I asked why. He said that there was some stuff around the dashboard that looked like I'd opened up a bag of pot and spilled. It was one of those stupid granola bars that spills crumbs everywhere. Then he pointed to dried grass between the driver's seat and the door. I explained that this was indeed dried grass, the lawn kind. He then told me about this other kid he had recently stopped. He had told him that if he had a pipe or something, he could chuck it across the road to see how far it went, but that he wasn't interested in paraphernalia. I thought a cop encouraging me to destroy evidence and couldn't tell granola crumbs from pot was probably not very trustworthy. He asked me what my problem with having him search my car was. I told him I had a Fourth Amendment problem against unreasonable searches and seizures. On hearing that, he lost his jovial side and told me he had a canine unit in his vehicle and that he was allowed to have the dog inspect the outside of the car, and if he detected anything, they would impound my car. I said that was fine as long as the dog wasn't hungry for granola. He ordered the dog around in German, occasionally telling her in English to "find the drugs, girl." She did not find any drugs. The cop wrote me up for the ticket, plus an expired inspection sticker. I called the town hall later and spoke with the prosecutor, who agreed to knock the charges back to a 2-point violation of parking on the sidewalk, which was about $400 cheaper and much less impactful on my insurance. I didn't have any drugs in the car, which made it easier to stand my ground, but that was intense. It's funny how cops immediately turn into raging assholes when you invoke your rights. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. And that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed today's stories. If you did, like, subscribe, leave a comment below with your thoughts on the stories or your favorite song if you don't have any thoughts on the stories. I am an enjoyer of music. And also, check out my gaming channel, Count Julius Gaming, if you want to support me further. I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta.